Hey everyone, Sumit Roy with ETF.com here. And today I'm joined by Stephen McClurg, who's the founder and CEO of Cannery Capital. Stephen, so nice to have you here.
So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Big news last week, Stephen. You launched these two very interesting crypto ETFs tied to coins that not everyone really is aware of or understands how they work. At least that's the case for me. Hedera, that's the first time I heard of that one. And you also launched a Litecoin ETF. I want to go through both of them. Why don't we start with Litecoin? I've been hearing about this one for years, but this is the first time we've had a Litecoin ETF in the US. Isn't that right?
That's correct. Yeah, so Litecoin was really created to be the silver to Bitcoin Gold. It was created by a early developer in the blockchain space, Charlie Lee. He was actually the first engineer that was hired at Coinbase. I believe he was employee number three. But prior to that, he had built Litecoin, which was designed to have the exact same code as Bitcoin, except he was frustrated that Bitcoin took, a full 10 minutes between every transaction, and the cost to transact were slightly high, which is great for security and it's great for large purchases and large movements of money. But he was more concerned about, the common person and moving money that's, say, under $1,000. So Litecoin was designed to be 25% of the time, 25% of the transaction fee. You do lose some security features in that, but it was really meant to be an efficient, faster way to move smaller amounts when you're not dealing with the larger amounts like Bitcoin, which is why it's always been tagged as either digital silver, and Charlie Lee has been tagged as Satoshi Light for Litecoin. But it's a really interesting technology, particularly in emerging market countries. You don't see a lot of it in the US, but you do see a lot of it outside of the US as far as transactions go. So we really believe in the continued use and functionality of Litecoin. One of the other differences between Litecoin and Bitcoin that's more recent is the implementation of Mimblewimble into Litecoin to give it the option of having some privacy features, which is really important in certain emerging market countries where there might be, authoritarian governments. So we really believe in some of those new implementations in Litecoin recently.
You mentioned that analogy of it being digital silver, Stephen. Bitcoin, obviously, one of the big selling points is that 21 million coin cap. Does Litecoin have anything like that?
It does. It actually has a limit of 84 million. So if you think about Litecoin being, process, the time between blocks for Bitcoin is 10 minutes versus Litecoin 2.5 minutes. Um, it is exactly four times the amount of supply of Bitcoin.
Very interesting. And the other ETF you launched last week was tied to Hedera. This one I had never heard of, but I did a little bit of reading and it's interesting. This is actually a crypto network that doesn't rely on blockchain, which is a little bit different than most other crypto networks which do use that technology. Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, and just kind of trying to break it down in simple terms because it is a very complicated technology. It operates more like a mesh network where data is stored across various nodes, and you can pull data from the nodes very quickly. Whereas as blockchain is really designed to be extremely secure, but the security makes it slow. So Hedera's technology is really meant to retrieve data very quickly, which is why it's used by a lot of enterprise clients. So it's got a very deep bench of enterprise users and enterprise companies that actually secure the network through running validators.
And what's the bull case for this one? You kind of made it easy to understand with Litecoin being digital silver to Bitcoin's digital gold. Why should investors consider Hedera?
Yeah, I mean, look, the way that we look at various crypto technologies is that one is money, which is Bitcoin and Litecoin. That's really easy to understand. Another grouping is protocols, right? So protocols allow you to put various applications on top of them, and they run applications that could be money, could be outside of money. So Ethereum, which is the second ETF that was launched in the US, is really a protocol designed for things like anything from like storage of data to gaming to any other types of applications that's put on top of it, much more of consumer use. And then you have HBAR, Hedera, which is really designed for enterprise use. So that, let's say that Intel might want to store data across the network and be able to retrieve it quickly. That's very similar to enterprise software, but it would be the back end of a lot of that enterprise software. And then you look at something like an XRP or the XRP ledger, which is really designed for financial transactions uh, for other financial devices. So that one's a lot more financial driven. Hedera is a lot more enterprise driven, and then Bitcoin and Litecoin are money.
So, Stephen, we've seen a lot of demand for Bitcoin ETFs since they launched in January 2024. Ethereum ETFs, they started off kind of slow, but this year they've really taken off. Now we're seeing other ETFs tied to other crypto assets. Solana launched recently, now Hedera and Litecoin, as we discussed. Do you think there's going to be demand for these ETFs? There's going to be people who want to include them in their portfolios alongside Bitcoin and Ethereum. What do you think the future looks like for these ETFs?
Yeah. Yeah, we're already seeing a lot of demand, and taking a step back, you've got to think about Hedera and Litecoin have smaller market caps compared to Bitcoin or Ethereum. But for their size, as far as market cap goes, the demand has been probably even better. So, Hedera, for instance, the ETF was launched a week ago, and in its first 3 days, it gathered 70 million in AUM. Its market cap is only 7 billion. So we're really close to about 1% of total supply just in the first 3 days of launch, and that was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of last week. So we have continued demand. We're actually seeing a lot of institutional demand for this, given it's more of an institutional software play. So we expect to see a lot more demand for HBAR, probably even more so than we thought. Litecoin, I think it's going to take a little bit more time. We haven't seen as much demand for Litecoin, but we do see demand for it globally as a spot. And the thing that we really think about when it comes to Litecoin, again, we talked about gold versus silver, emerging market transactions versus developed market transactions. But we do believe that in the US that people are going to start seeing that it is a less expensive, faster network that complements Bitcoin. And when people start seeing what we see, then we believe that the demand is going to pick up quite a bit.
Last question, Stephen. Do you anticipate you're going to be launching more ETFs tied to new crypto assets? Obviously, the floodgates have seemed to have opened over the past month or so as the SEC has given new guidelines on what people could launch. Do you think we're going to see things tied to Dogecoin and all these other crypto assets? And do you envision participating in that, launching many more ETFs tied to many other crypto assets?
Absolutely. So we've actually filed about a dozen 1933 Act ETFs over the last year. Two have already launched, and we do expect to launch two more this month, hopefully, and potentially even one more by the end of the year. I believe 2026 is going to be is probably going to be a great time for a lot of these tokens. As far as things like, we don't have an ETF for everything that's out there either that qualify under the generic listing standards. So we did not file for a Doge ETF, or some of the other ones. But we're really focused on category killers, which is why, for instance, we focused on, Litecoin as a probably a second runner to Bitcoin as far as money goes, HBAR for enterprise, XRP for financial rails, and then of course Solana, Sui, Injective for more broad-based retail protocols.
Well, very exciting times in the crypto space, Stephen. Want to thank you for taking the time and explaining your crypto ETFs to us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.